Yes, sir.
Randall says we have 6:30, so we'll call this special call meeting to order for the purpose of the agenda items here only. Item number 1, new business, approve the issuance of special conditions use permit for a period of 1 year to Grace City Church for the use of some 3,600 square feet for a church and a place of worship and Bible instructions at 104 Perennial Drive, suits 100, 200, and 800. Being in landlocked 149, District 6, Carroll County Parcel, and in a general commercial district, applicant by Charles Morgan, Grace City Church. Mr. Osmond.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I think we have a representative from Grace City Church who will come and make their presentation.
I don't really have a presentation. I'm Tommy Adams. I'm the pastor of Grace City, and we've been planning to plant a church in Temple for quite a while. We want to be a church that exists to serve the community of Temple, and we look forward to getting in and getting to work. We've been waiting on this vote for a while. So, is that a good enough presentation?
Any members of the council have any questions of the church? Since this is a public hearing regarding a special conditional use permit, is there any members of the public who are here who wish to speak against the special conditional use permit for Grace City Church? Let the record reflect that there is no one speaking against the special use permit. And Mayor, members of the council, the matter would now be before you concerning the vote on the special use permit.
I'll propose that we go for
Got a motion by Mr. Simmons and a second by Mr. Brackman. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's carried, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 2, approve the rezoning of some 4.26 acres of property at 268 Carrollton Street and 282 Carrollton Street, being in landlocked 149, District 6, Carroll County, from a single family detached residential to general commercial district. Applicant Carol Will Hyde, Mr. McRae.
Thank you, Mayor. As we did with the special conditional use permit, we will have a public hearing first before consideration by the mayor and council of this request. I would ask, and we have our timekeeper over here, Mr. Bracknell, that you limit your remarks hopefully to 5 minutes, and of course there may be questions by the mayor and council. So is there someone here who wishes to speak on behalf of the zoning change from R1 to general commercial for Ms. Wilhite? Mr. Meckler.
Sir.
And if you would, for the record, if you would just state your name.
Sure. Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is David Macklin. I'm an attorney. I'm here on behalf of Carol Wilhite. Carol is here in the audience, and if some questions come up that I can't answer, then I'll ask Carol to help me out because she's more familiar with the property than anybody, having owned it for a while. We're asking to rezone the property. We're your next door neighbors here, virtually back in the back of the property. We're asking to have this property rezoned from residential to commercial property. The application shows that it's for the purpose of developing a retail store on that site. The reasons why Ms. Wilhite is asking to have it rezoned is because the city's future land use plan shows this property as being commercial. You're familiar with the fact that there is a lot of commercial already around the property. I stood on the front stoop of the property and just stood there and watched, and you can see all sorts of commercial establishments already within view. Because of the nature of the property, it's not suitable for residential. When the future land use plan is showing that it growing as commercial, and City Hall being right here, we expect that this area is going to continue to be commercial and office and institutional use in the future. That being said, Ms. Wilhite has been a long-time Temple resident, and she cares very much about how the property is developed, and she believes that the potential purchaser for this property will develop it in a manner that will be beneficial to the city. There are certain issues that I think are important to the city that I want to address that we are prepared to have attached to our rezoning application as conditions that will address some concerns that I have become aware of. One is that whether or not the rear of the building would be screened. There was a concern that was expressed in some earlier hearings that if that's the loading dock back there, that that would need to be screened off. First of all, the proposed Dollar General, it's in the application, so it's not secret. There is no loading dock on the back of the building. Their loading comes from the side generally, so there should not be any loading and unloading in the rear of the building. They have agreed that they would have a condition in place that they don't do away with the natural buffer that's already on the property and does screen off the back of the building. And they've also agreed to a condition that if they put a dumpster back there, that a protective covering be built around that fence to screen that from view. Second, we do recognize that there is a residence next door between City Hall and this proposed site. They've agreed that they would agree to a condition that a fence be built between the store and that residence to screen that from view, an opaque fence to block any view from the store and the residence. And then thirdly, in order to get, let me just address what I know is an issue here in town, because it'd be an issue to anybody, and that's traffic. And traffic is an issue. It's an issue today. It will be an issue tomorrow. It will be an issue if the store gets built. You can stand there on the front of this property and know that traffic is an issue. And this store is not going to make the traffic problem any better. And we don't believe it's going to be make it any worse also. Dollar General's, their entire concept is they are not a destination store where people are deciding to pack up on Saturday morning to go to Dollar General. Their entire concept is people will, traffic passing by will pull off and stop and pick up whatever they happen to need there. So that's one of the reasons why they're building it, want to build it there. It's because of the existing traffic that already exists there. It is required by law, since Temple Street, Highway 113 is a state highway, that they're not going to be able to do anything until they get a curb cut permit from the state DOT. The state DOT has pretty stringent requirements. They go through an evaluation to determine whether or not a curb cut would be allowed, and if so, what type of access and egress lanes would have to be developed. And we would urge you to place a condition on it that they get state DOT approval for any type of a curb cut, so that it would be done right according to state standards. We believe this would be a good development. It would be a good start for following your future land use plan, which sees this land as commercial. I want to be very clear that we're not asking for the property that goes all the way to Katy Lane to be rezoned here tonight. There'll be no access to this property off of Katy Lane. That will come to you at some point in time, but not tonight. So with that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Darrell will be able to answer any that I can. And I'd like a chance to respond if there's any other comments in opposition to it if I need to. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Questions of mayor, council, of either Ms. White, of Will Hyatt, or Mr. Mack?
Mr. Wall,
The track you're talking about nearest to Katy Lane, is that the big one right next to this one right here? Okay, here's one of those things over here. You're saying they're not wanting this one rezoned, is that what you're saying?
No, this was all one track.
They're showing us the tracks.
Katy,
Okay, you're talking about this one, the
yes,
corner lot.
yeah, Katy Lane, I believe is going right along this here. And this property does not touch Katy Lane.
So there would be no access.
No. No access to this property off of Katy Lane.
But there's not a user for this track right here yet, right?
This whole track, my understanding, is the store. And I look at the,
I don't think this, the shed,
It's about like third.
yeah, I think you're right, sir. Let me get Carol here to be sure.
just this one track.
Yes, that's right. Let me ask Carol to be sure about that.
They're not numbered.
Mr. Walden, I think I got an answer for you. The two tracks that you're looking at there, it is both tracks that we've asked to be rezoned. Dollar General is going to be on this lot and on about 7/10 of this lot. We'll cut a little sliver off on that side. And then the rest of it, there's no plan use for it.
You indicated that at this time you're not asking for any rezoning on Katy Lane.
Yes, sir.
Will you talk that in the future you might be asking for access from Katy Lane?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the future is a long time. And somebody would have to come back before this board if they want to rezone the property. The board is on Katy Lane and ask you for permission to do that. We're not asking for that tonight. Whether or not somebody in the future does, again, the future's a long time. I don't want to mislead you by saying nobody will ever come back here and ask for rezoning.
Did I understand you to say there would be a privacy fence between the residential
Yes,
here and it would go all the way back before we put under?
Yes.
concern is with this one resident that's right here. The one that we virtually, he said they were virtually neighbors, but there is a home right here and there. And,
I wonder if I might make one comment concerning that.
so my question is,
Just hold on, ma'am, we're gonna give everybody the opportunity to respond in just a minute. If y'all wait just a minute, we still got questions going on as far as, so, yes, yes, yes.
I would just like to hear from these people. Sure. As to what their thoughts and feelings are on.
Anything else now, let me talk to the neighbor, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me talk to the neighborhood group now. I don't know if you got a spokesperson, we don't want to be too formal about this. We want to give everybody the opportunity to talk. But if there's one or two of you who are the spokespersons, we'd ask you to come up and identify yourself and please tell the council where you live in relation to the property. So whoever wants to come up and either ask a question or make a comment, please do so now.
Hello, I'm Deborah Brooks, and I live at 42 Katy Street, and my property line backs up to where the Dollar General store is going to go. My concern is, you got a Dollar General down here on 78 that is so nasty now, I won't even go in it. You've got dogs and cats roaming around in the dumpsters. I got a rat issue now with that field being back there. I'm getting rats out of my outbuilding and rats out of my utility building and all that. And my concern is that, you know, we put another store down there with one empty already over here at Yazoo that's sitting over there empty, and you've got all kind of riffraff going on over there now. Yesterday, we had 18-wheelers coming down Katy Street. Now, why we got 18-wheelers coming down Katy Street, I don't know, but they are. And, you know, if they do put a store there, I would ask that a buffer be ran behind us, because I'm the only one that's got a pool in that area, but I don't want to be sitting out there in the summertime with people that whatever type facility is going to be there, looking over into the backyard. So I've got a real big concern with it.
Is that buffer in
There is a buffer in the agreement that what would be, if I understand kind of where you are, what is between your house and property could not be disturbed. Now, I guess my question to you is, if you were in the back of this proposed building, could you see your property? And maybe could you see the back of your house, I guess? Or is there a buffer there now, a natural buffer, as Mr. Meckler describes?
No, there's nothing there now.
It's a swamp.
Yeah, there's water. You know, I've always been told from years back that when they would bush hog that area, there was a part of it that they couldn't even bush hog because it was so wet back down in there that they couldn't even get a bush hog back there to bush hog it.
So if you were in the back of the building, if you're saying that there's not a screen all the way across the back of what would be the proposal where the building is?
There's nothing,
Okay.
nothing back there now.
Could look, concern that 11 right there.
We'll ask that of the development here in just a minute. So let's make that concern number one is the back fencing buffer. Okay? Other questions y'all may have?
Well, I guess the question that I have is, the attorney said there was one. Didn't he say there was a buffer?
Yes.
She asked if there's not one.
No, I can stand out in my backyard and I can see through 7 to 78. If the leaves are off the trees, so there's nothing there now. I mean, is there? I mean, am I
Yeah,
crazy?
no.
Don't y'all live next
No,
door?
you're right.
There's nothing.
There's nothing there. You can see straight through. And if that were there, we would be looking directly at it. They would be looking directly at us.
Okay, ma'am. Let me, any other questions of her? Okay, for the record, would you like to come up and state your name and? Okay, thank you. We're going, because there's a number of residents, we're not going to be, if y'all don't mind, Finicky, you got 5 minutes. No way. Okay.
I'm Tiffany Davis. I live next to Deborah, 22 Katy Street. I am right next to the lot that has the trailer on it, right there at the corner on 78. And yeah, I have the same concerns as she does, as I think we all do. If that goes in there, we'll be looking at them, they'll be looking at us. The traffic, we can't get out of Katy Street half the time because the traffic is so bad. And I mean, I just don't see a need for it.
Questions?
Yeah. If there were a buffer in place, say trees or like leaving cypress or whatever it is, that you couldn't see, would screen you and block you off from being able to see at the road, that would you feel better about?
I mean, I would feel better if I couldn't see it at all, but also there's the traffic. I mean, I feel like that's just, I mean, how is that gonna work? I don't see how that's gonna work with the traffic. You can't hardly get out of Katy Street as it is. I mean, I have to go all the way around to just get out and get back in, just to go to Ingles. Much less if I were gonna try to go the other way and go to the Marathon or, I mean, you can't get out.
Anyone else that wishes to speak about their concerns with regard to the rezoning request? Yes, sir. If you come, and again, like the other folks, if you state your name and where you live, please.
I'm Tony Gordon. I live next door. And I've lived in Temple for 53 years. And I've lived there for 35 years. And my question is when it goes commercial, what's it going to do to the rest of the street? And I guess the reason I'm asking, because I just need to know, I don't have to move when it comes in. So I guess I need to know when I need to move, what will be commercial down the street.
One of the things that may have been said at the beginning of the conversation about this, and I'll address that a little bit more in a minute, is the area from where we are now, all the way down to I-20 that hasn't been developed commercial, is in the future land use plan commercial. So every bit of that along that street would be commercial. Potentially could be.
Even if there's someone who's in the residence.
That's right. Well, I mean, it can be commercial if you're in the residence and you don't want to sell it, but if the highest and best use for somebody to develop a property according to land use planning is commercial. I hope I'm answering the question.
So do we have a time limit as to when this will take place?
No, and I don't know if you heard his question, but his question was, is there a time limit about that? I want to go back to kind of the beginning of the process. The only thing that's occurring tonight is the rezoning of the proposed rezoning of the property. That doesn't mean that without anybody's consent, the whole rest of the property, and I think that's kind of where you're going with that, is all of a sudden my property going to be changed from residential to commercial. No. I mean, that can occur. But when the land use plan down a corridor is for commercial, then if somebody wants to move out of the residence, you or anyone else, or like Ms. Wilhite, and turn it into a commercial piece of property, they have that right legally under the law to do that. But it doesn't, I'll say it again, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden next month there's going to be a commercial rezoning. The council can't do that. I've never advised them to do that.
Right. Now, I understand that, and I understand it's going commercial. It's her property. She bought it, and what she does with it is her business, I guess. Yes, I'm just looking at when is the timeline it's going to take place, when it's going to.
And let's talk about that. Again, related to your property, it could be never during your lifetime. Okay? Sir?
You said I don't.
No. I don't know if y'all heard that, but he asked if I see any years old. I'm probably one of the oldest ones in the room. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. So there is nothing that can be done with your property without your consent. Now, if you went toward the interstate and somebody wanted to ask that their property be rezoned for some other commercial business, they could do that. But I kind of want to go back. I think maybe your concern, I don't know if it's a concern to others, that all of a sudden you're going to see an advertisement that please come to Temple, this is a commercial strip of property from here to I-20. That's not going to happen. Okay?
Well, really what, I guess I'm asking, when it goes through, when it's, I don't know, I really don't know how to say it. When she goes in and does it, and when it's passed for the commercial, I guess that's what I'm asking, when will that?
Oh, okay. If you heard his question is if the decision is made to allow the property to be commercial, when does that occur? And the answer is tonight, unless they defer the decision from tonight.
Yeah, I was going to make sure you were getting the answer, but are you, when construction starts, or when you, is that what you were asking?
Right, I'm just looking to see when I need to move out.
See, that would be up to you once you do with your property, sure.
Right.
But you do not have to move.
Sure, yeah, I understand that, but I mean, I understand that. I was just curious when it's going to take place, when that's,
They can bring the bull. He's asking when can they bring the bulldozers in and start grading?
Well, one of the problems the developer has, and I don't want to speak for the developer significantly, but nothing's going to be done with this piece of property until the DOT traffic study is completed and they make a determination about curb cuts. Now, let's just suppose that the decision of the DOT is right in, right out. You know what I'm saying when I'm saying that? Have a decel lane, you go in, you got to come out that same way on 113, and you can't make a left-hand turn like you say you can't now, right? If that's the deal, then the developer has to decide for Dollar General if that's suitable. If it is, then go ahead and build, but I'm sure that the condition is what is the DOT going to require? One of the things that we're going to ask is that the DOT consider widening that area so you can get in and out. You got a left-hand turn lane and a right-hand turn lane all the way down there like you do in other places. But ultimately, realize this, and it's a dumb thing to say, but let's be sure we say it, the DOT controls state routes. And I'm sure probably everybody understands that, and so it could be all the way from not allowing a curb cut or allowing it down the way some to right in, right out, or requiring a very wide cut in front of the Dollar General. That's, again, all based on the DOT. And one of the things I was going to say later, but I'll say it now to the council, is to have the city administrator and the mayor, on behalf of the city, be involved in the traffic review and their recommendations, so we'll know what the DOT is recommending for the development of the property. So ultimately, we don't control that, but we would like to have a voice. It's not me, the city of Temple governing officials would like to have a voice.
So if it's in and out, then they would have to abide.
Right. The DOT would have, as you've probably seen in a lot of places, everybody, the accel, decel, and how you do it, and how wide it is, and how far back you got to go. All of those will be requirements of the DOT, whatever they are.
So I would have to be very careful how I stepped out the front door. That's kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah. Well, you know, I haven't really thought about it like that, but where that stick is right there, where that pink ribbon is, you know, if you came up that way, then you would think, and we talked about that earlier before we started, you'd think maybe they might take some of the city parking lot right here and come all the way up and have another turn lane right here or something. I don't know what would happen, and again, that's up to the DOT. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Tom.
Anybody else? We had it covered. That would then close the public hearing, with the exception of Mr. Macklin. One of the concerns, I think, that was raised is whether there would be consideration in the development to put more buffering in the back, especially a privacy fence along the back property line adjacent to the adjoining neighbor's properties, or in some fashion.
And I've been chatting with Ms. Wilhite back here to try and fully understand the drawing that Mr. Walden, you were looking at here. And perhaps it's some misunderstanding based on the fact that we do have 2 lots there shown as being rezoned. The Dollar General itself is only going to be on one of those lots and then roughly 60 feet of the other lot. So that by my calculations, there's going to be 200 feet, at least 200 feet between Ms. Brooks and Ms. Brady's property and the sideline of the Dollar General property. There's roughly 200 feet of space there. And, perhaps I also am not understanding the terminology on the back line, because the back line to us, to the Dollar General, backs up to the Roush Properties property. If you can look on the drawing there, that's what we consider to be the back line of their property. But I do understand that Ms. Brooks and was it Ms. Brady?
Brady Davis.
From Ms. Brady Davis, I understand. I see where they live, and between their back property line and the Dollar General property, there's going to be roughly 200 feet. Ms. Brooks' property, I know that she can see this, but it doesn't really appear to back up to the back line of the Dollar General property at all.
You know what might be good? We got some other things we got to deal with. I wonder if it might be good for you to take the drawings, you and Ms. Wilhite and these folks, and let everybody look at that a little bit. Sure. Because I now see what you're talking about the difference in the footage right there.
Yes.
So you can talk to them about it. Is that all right with y'all?
I'd be glad to show them on my drawing here what I'm talking about so they'll understand.
Yeah, why don't we defer anything where y'all have an opportunity to look at this, because we're sitting here looking at drawings, y'all aren't.
Right.
Okay, so let's do that. Mayor, members of the council, is that all right with y'all? Yes. So we can let them have some time to look at that, and let's see where we go from there. Thank you all.
Sure.
And we'll come back to that.
Yes, sir.
Is there a good place for us to?
I don't think that we just defer that for the minutes, we just defer that everybody on in the meeting. I don't think that's required.
Is there a good place for us to go to do that?
We'll try to be quiet.
I'm sorry, you said something I didn't agree.
I don't want to have
Sure, and let me tell you where we stand. Before everybody goes in there, let me just say one thing. All we've done right now is have a public hearing, okay? And we're still kind of publicing it right now. Y'all go in there and talk for a while. That's it. The council's not taking this under deliberation yet, and we're sure not going to do it while y'all sitting in there, okay? So we're going to give everybody time to talk about it some in there, and then come back and let's see, Mayor, members of the council, kind of where we are. Okay? Thank you all for your time. Everybody get in there.
Okay. Agenda item number 3, the consideration recommendation of the City Planning Commission for traffic study. Mr. McRae.
Yes, sir. I had talked to the mayor and to the city administrator about this. And I said it kind of a while ago, but we said it again. The DOT has the decision with their own traffic study and own engineering analysis about what happens at this property. If we pay several $1,000s for a traffic study, the cheapest one I've ever seen is $3,000. Most of them are close to $5,000. It's going to come out the wrong way I'm saying it. It really doesn't mean anything because we don't control anything. We could do 4 traffic studies, send it to the DOT, and they can give them whatever permit they want to, if you follow me. The Planning Commission recommended that you do a traffic study. And of course, the reason for that. It's a very logical reason, because you got folks concerned about Katy Street going out, in and out, and this sort of thing. But my advice to you is to not to do the traffic study. I think it's a waste of city funds. And again, DOT's gonna do it. So what I would suggest you do, and what I'll suggest you do if the property is rezoned, is that the mayor and administrator will send a formal letter on behalf of the city saying, when you get ready to do any kind of study, we want to be involved. We want to let our citizens be involved, and we want to see the study. For this reason, let's suppose the study says, well, the gentleman said over there a while ago that I'm going to walk out my house and there's going to be a car right there. I assume that wouldn't be the deal, but if for some reason that became the deal, then you're going to need to give your chief elected official, Mayor Harmon, and your city administrator the authority to object significantly about that. And they listen, they'll listen to city officials and property owners, but I'm saying that's got to be within the confines of the DOT study, not your separate study that you pay for. I hope I'm making it clear they're going to pay for the study, and let's work. We got to work with them anyway. Am I making that clear? So I would suggest to you that there would be no action taken on any traffic study with regard to Highway 130. Yes, sir. You need for your minutes to make it.
That you can make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion that we do not do this traffic study. Is that sufficient?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Wall, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's carried. Agenda item number 4, consider approval of memorandum of understanding from the State Attorney General, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Mayor. You may be aware that the city received a notice from the Attorney General about some allegations with regard to open meetings and open records. We disagree as your lawyers with the way that's being handled presently, and we've asked the Attorney General to reconsider the matter and also give us some time to consider other alternatives, wording, or where we may be. And I said this to a couple of you beforehand. When the Attorney General sends some form of what's called a consent order or EPD or other state agencies, a lot of times you don't have the ability to negotiate or do anything about it. And you say either you accept this or you reject it, and then we have to go through an administrative hearing process. Not the deal here at all. They've been very accommodating to us and are agreeing that we may continue to negotiate with them and negotiate the language. So I'm asking you to allow us to continue to do that, and that this be deferred to your November meeting. And I hope that before then, I'll be able to give you some definitive idea of where we stand. But the good news at the beginning of the process is they're willing to allow us to negotiate and hopefully work out something for the benefit of Temple citizens.
Okay. Do you need a motion on that, sir?
It would just be deferred to the November meeting.
November meeting.
So motion.
Motion by Mr. Bracknell, second by Mr. Simmons. Defer this to the November meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item number 5, authorize the mayor to sign agreement from Carroll County Public Works Department to make improvements to Lee Street with cost of materials to be paid from the City Temple Public Works Department, Mr. Everhart. Well, Mr. Everhart's got been giving you information that you have, and this is one of your packets, and your packet is Mr. Everhart and where we are, where we go.
Mayor, Council, this has been brought up at the last council meeting on the Lee Street. And as if you read the language in what Mr. Osborne provided to you, we did go out and put a culvert in at the end of at that property across the street, so we can kind of divert the water away from the property. And now we want to actually go ahead and pave the street. We have got some estimates, as Mr. Osborne has indicated, and I think that amount is about $4,000. And what that will do, they'll put a layer of pressure run on top of the street as well as asphalt. And again, hopefully that'll divert the water away from the property.
Yes, sir.
Only thing I'd add to that is, as you know, from what we've given you, is the county is asking us to pay only for the materials, labor costs, no labor costs. And that also we would be paying for this materials as we presented to you from our line item and our public works budget where the money is at.
So $4,000, is that just for material? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Evans?
I have a question. Are they proposing going on down, how far? Is it just to his fence, or is it going to be beyond his shop area? He's got that bad wash coming across the road, going down toward his shop, so I'm assuming that gully right there that is so bad is going to be graded down and filled, and then the asphalt will go on beyond that area a little ways, do you know?
Mr. Johnson?
What, you got the email that I provided to you from Mr. Pope said that it would go from the pavement, in other words, coming off of, there's that driveway, quote, to the end of the existing drive.
Too bad, okay, that's good.
Yeah, but I know as we have talked with them, they're aware of needing to be sure that the water is draining into that ditch and not continuing to drain toward his storage field.
Any more questions? Yes, sir, Mr. Ross.
Is it gonna fix the problem?
Well, hopefully, the way the house sits, I mean, it kind of sits kind of down. I mean, I think it will minimize the problem. I don't think it will actually stop the water flowing on out because of the way the house sits, but it will definitely reduce the problem.
Yes, sir.
Ben?
Mrs. Moore?
Yes, hi.
Ma'am, come back.
Yeah, so we had talked about that, I'm very glad to hear that. And, the other ditch you did put in, the drainage ditch, they do need to lower it. But our question was also, when you do come in to pave the road, so it would stop the drainage, the excess dirt or however you do it, to be pushed in front of the shop. And I know you've been out there to look at it, so I think that would really help that too, as long as that is in the plan too. You know, because that, it's not so much, it's so much lower, you know, now, so even if you paved and did not put gravel or some more dirt right there in front, it's still gonna go over that into that shop. But like I said, I mean, if you have a plan and that works, that would be great. But, you know, like I said, just have that excess, you know, push to the shop. Is that your plan or?
Well, the county's going to do that. We'll definitely forward that information on to them, and hopefully we'll be able to.
Yeah, because like I said, you just come in when you asphalt, you're stopping right there where you are, which is great, you know, good to hear, but, you know, it's gonna still run off that asphalt. And we shall do something to encourage it like that.
Stay on the way. We're trying to be sure no water don't run into your yard.
Right, yeah, I appreciate it, honestly, because like I said, as far as the gas, that's another question I had, is where it has washed, I know everybody's seen the front yard. Is there any way that y'all can come in and put filter back in the yard where it has washed so much? And I mean, it's washed our concrete little sidewalk off, you know, that we had completely, it was like this thick, little sidewalk. Like, I mean, it needs filter, and there's no wash it.
Set on private property, we wouldn't be able to come on private.
Is there any way you can just dump the filter towards the shop?
Probably, Mr. Everhart, you know, with the right of way, is nothing could happen off that right of way. And even with the right of way, it's correct.
Yeah, like I
That's
said,
what I
that would
understand,
be fine.
because it can't happen if it's not on the right of way.
Right, that's fine with us, like I said, with what you're doing, but we were just wondering if we could get the filter off the private property line there, so we could
something the mayor to sign the agreement.
I got a motion, Mr. Brackett, authorize the mayor to sign the agreement to get this work done on improvements made on the street for the Carroll County. Certification of Mr. Everhart, second by Mr. Simmons. Any discussion?
I think that will be money well spent.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That's carried. Number 6, select a construction company to make improvements to the city of Temple Public Works Department building with the cost to be paid from sign improvements line item and as department's budget. Mr. Everhart.
There we go.
Yes, sir, Mr. Officer.
Since he's tied up, we gave you a memo. You remember we had one quote that we brought to you, and you wanted us logically to go through the bid process, and we did. We got one bid, the same bidder, David Harrison. It was for the same amount, $7,950. What I've given you is another copy of what they presented to us previously, as well as his bid, so that you can see that they essentially, some amount, just a little bit of wording. And recommendation of Mr. Everhart and myself is to award this to the only bidder that we had after we went through the entire bid process, David Harrison.
We've asked, he's got everything we've asked him to do. He's already explained this to us, and I just make a motion to go ahead and proceed with this project.
Right, got a motion to proceed with this project. Here, second. Second from Mr. Simmons. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay. Number 7. Consider agreement between the City of Temple and Harrison County Water Authority to be signed by the municipality's elected officials to provide for the purchase of water from the City of Temple to meet Harrison County's needs during the current drought and conditions thereof. Mr. Simmons, you probably remember back in the 80s when we had to do work on our dam when we were in the water business, we were leaking down there, and we had to close our water plant for a month or two, and we went to Atlanta and got a little help from the state governor's emergency fund to help Harrison County run the water line up to the Carroll County and Temple City limits, and we bought water from Harrison County until we were able to rework our problem at the dam down there at the city water plant. Well, now Harrison County is in a bind, and they come up and met with Mr. Osborne and myself and showed us all kind of drought conditions, and they had contacted Carroll County, and Carroll County agreed to sell them water on the Rainy Road, and we also agreed that it was okay for us to sell water if the city council so chose. And so, since then, they were supposed to get with Mr. Everhart and with the cost, and our only concern was the dam was that we wanted to be sure that we made our 1.05% our water bond over what this water cost us. So council is to set the rate if you choose to do this. Well, they were supposed to have gotten over to Mr. Everhart at the time you met with him. They were only talking about down like Homer Road over there and the other road that goes back into 78. Those people there would be the only ones that would be fed off of the 78 line. And we're working it out with the Carroll County about water from them up there off of the big tower on Main Road. And so that was the proposal, but in the meantime, I think they have got into some snags with their wording about issuing the drought conditions that only the governor could
anyway, we decided to leave this on the agenda tonight, to let y'all have it and to hear, me and explain that that's why we have a water line over there, and that's why we would be able to come to Harrison County's aid this time. Mr. Osborne, you got anything else to add?
Just to add to what the mayor has said, is that we're not asking you to take action tonight. They're supposed to let us know in the next few days if they will need any water from us or whether the needs are being handled with the arrangements going on between the two water authorities. They'll let us know in a few days, and I told Mr. Walker that we've got a regular council meeting on November 7th, and so if they will let us know in advance of that, you can take action at that time if they need us to. One thing you do need to decide, and the mayor had touched on this, is basically what we would charge them. Right now, Carroll County, they're going to charge us $1.62 per unit, which means that's equivalent to $2.16 per 1,000 gallons. And we resell it is what we want to resell it for in Harrison County. Keeping in mind what the mayor said is sure we don't want to gouge them because we may need to buy water from them at some point. We don't want to sell them water and end up in that creating deeper problems for us our situation with what we need on the percentage, the ratio that the mayor mentioned. In the next few days, staff would like input from the elected officials so that we are ready on the 7th if we need to take action. Don't need any action tonight.
Do I got any questions? Yes, sir.
Do we know if they mark the water up on us, or we were going to buy it from them? They did not. We don't know.
They did not. How we bought water from them, they sold it to us, at the rate they didn't take advantage. And see, at the time we put that line in, there was no Carroll County water, available anywhere close to us. That was the closest line in the time Harrison County got flowing water. They were discussing building a big lake over there. And they really came to the aid of the people's temple back in the day, Mr. Simmons. So that's where that is, and no action. Item number 8, Mr. Osborne already touched on this, holding this public hearing here on the capital budget before the next meeting in November.
Yes, basically, just for our public, in the work session that we had earlier, staff did present to the mayor and council a proposed capital improvements plan for the new fiscal year, but it is a very abbreviated plan because we have several legal questions that I have presented to our attorney that over the next month we'll be working on. So the only thing that we're looking at this time is our local match for the GDOT local government, the Road Improvement Resurfacing Act. We'll get a small grant and have to match it. As the mayor said, we'll be coming back. We will have a public hearing, not tonight, but we'll have a public hearing on Monday, November 7th, concerning the capital budget as proposed at this time. So no action needed tonight.
Okay, back to item number 2, Mr. McRae.
Thank you, Mr. Mecklen, and folks in the neighborhood, any?
Yes, sir. Just to report, and I'm not sure that changed any hearts and minds in our meeting, but we did address one issue, and y'all can correct me. I tried to put it in writing, and it was a legitimate question on the part of the residents of Katy Lane, and that was what's going to happen if the balance of 282 Carrollton Street is rezoned, even though there's not any plans for that property that's closest to them. The Dollar General that's being planned is going to be at least 200 feet away from the back lines of those folks on Katy Lane. Their concern, and I've attempted to address that in a writing by proposing an additional condition to be attached to the property. And I'll just read it out. I've shown it to them, which says that at such time as the owner of the property on the balance of 282 Carrollton Street, closest to Katy Lane, seeks to develop the property, that the owner recognizes and the city reserves the right to review and approve any required buffers between the commercial and existing residential properties. Just to say that once that property is planned for some type of development, you'll get another say-so as to whether or not the buffer between those property owners and whatever development is planned is sufficient or not.
And one other thing I want to add is that you had said this before, that we're not approving any access from Katy Lane.
Correct. We're not asking for it.
No commercial access from Katy Lane.
We're asking for, I mean, none of the property we're rezoning touches Katy Lane.
Okay.
Ms. Wilhite does own another lot at the corner of Katy Lane and Carrollton Street, but that's, we haven't asked for anything to be done to that.
She already
She already owns it, but that's not up for rezoning at all.
Okay. Hearing that, anything else, Mr. Mack?
I don't have anything else.
Hearing that, other comments from the property owners before we close the public hearing? Any questions of the mayor and council of either Mr. Macklin, okay, or the property owners?
Mr. Mayor, was there any further agreement on any buffers, extra buffers? You know, we talked about along this line, backing up the residential.
Well, that's what that condition said, is, no, we didn't agree on it because we don't know what's going to be here, but we did reserve the right, once somebody plans to build something there, that y'all get to review it again to determine if there's an appropriate buffer or not.
But there wouldn't be any additional buffers back up here where you're going over 60 feet into this property.
No. And again, it's a 200-foot separation, there's some vegetation, trees already there. I mean, I don't doubt that they can still see the property.
No, it's just further from.
But it's 200 feet away.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you. I want to make certain.
And then let for the record, Madam Clerk, that would close the public hearing, and going back to what the mayor had just said, we now have under consideration the rezoning request of Ms. Wilhite for the property. The agenda item, I think, is number 2. And with that, any comments that you want to ask or questions of me, I'm glad to answer.
I have a statement I'd like to make.
Yes, sir.
I want to be known that I'm totally against anything to do with this. I wouldn't want to live next or close to this. And I thought when we bought in the zone, it was supposed to protect people property from something like that. And the only reason that I will approve this is because of you telling me that it is in the best interest of the city and that it would probably do me no good to go against it. That's the only reason I will approve.
And let's talk about that a minute after his statement. And one of the gentlemen that lives in the house had indicated something about what may happen with the future. I want to go back to that. The highest and best use land use plan for the area from your home 2 by 20 is commercial along the corridor, as we said earlier. And my advice to the mayor and council that I gave them when I came on as city attorney is that when there is a request to rezone it from residential to a higher and best use, and the land use plan authorizes that, legally, we do not have any alternative but to rezone the property. And I just want the public to know, and want the mayor and council to know, that that is my legal opinion. Mr. Macklin, and I'm not in any way critical of Mr. Macklin, but I'm just saying he, as any lawyer does in these situations, has indicated to the city that if you don't do it, it is a violation of the property rights of Ms. Wilhite. That's correct. And because it is a violation of her property rights for the highest and best use of her property for commercial, it is my advice to the mayor and council that you do not have any alternative but to rezone the property commercial. And I'm glad to answer any other questions you may have.
Any other comments? Yes, sir.
I guess my question goes back to the same thing. So this house right here is still gonna be zoned residential.
Correct.
So we have, what are we zoned? Commercial? Just City Hall? And then residential, and then commercial, and then another residential in Katy Street. So it's not going to affect anybody's property taxes of this house. It won't automatically be rezoned to commercial.
No.
They'll have to go through the same process.
Right, it can't be.
It's residential unless the owner that asks, go before the planning committee to request a change to commercial.
Yes, sir.
No questions? Here, yes, sir.
The stipulations as far as the fencing, whatever was agreed on with the privacy fence, that will be written in with what we vote on tonight on the rezoning.
Yes, sir, and I think the council needs to make a decision if you are going to, like it or not, go along with the advice that I think you've got to do, or be sued. Let's make that pretty clear. And I don't think there's any possibility of you winning the litigation. It's going to cost the residents of this city a lot of money. And so because of that, I cannot recommend to you that you do anything other than rezone. If the decision is to potentially rezone it, Mr. Walden's point is, what about that? Then I'm going to actually put into the record the stipulations concerning rezoning as a part of that. So I think the first part of the discussion, gentlemen, is if you're going to rezone the property, and if the decision is to not rezone it, the conditions mean nothing. If the decision is to rezone the property, then I want to have a formal motion about the conditions concerning the rezoning. Is that clear? I hope. So the first thing you're going to need is a motion and second as to whether you're going to rezone the property or not. That's your motion. First thing before you.
Motion to rezone the property.
Motion, Mr. Walden, to rezone the property. Do I hear a second? Second, Mr. Rockwell. Any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 3, 4, and 1 opposed, motion carries.
All right.
Now, Mr.
Thank you, Mayor. The second part of the motion, and Mr. Beckley, you may want to be sure that I am saying this correctly.
I'm listening.
Okay, not that I didn't think you were. The stipulations and conditions regarding rezoning are as follows. There will be a privacy fence running 300 feet along the adjacent residential property. There will be a screening of any dumpster or other type of storage facility that's placed in the rear of the property. The protective buffer in existence in the 200-foot area we discussed earlier will remain in effect. Georgia DOT will conduct a traffic study, and any curb cuts will have to be approved by the DOT. And as I said momentarily ago, I don't think the people were here, is that the condition would be that we will ask, being the mayor and council, that we be provided the study and what would be done concerning the traffic issue on 113 going in and out of the proposed development. And I just want to state this for the record, there would be no request for any access off of Katy Lane. And finally, the last condition would be at such time as the owner of the property wishes to rezone the balance or use of 282 Carrollton Street closest to Katy Lane and seeks to develop the property, the city reserves the right to review and approve any required buffer between commercial and existing residential properties. And those are the conditions.
Y'all heard the conditions, I hear a motion to accept the condition, motion Mr. Brackman to accept the conditions. Your second? Second, Mr. Rockwell, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 3, 4, 1 against. Your motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Can we have a council comment? Can we have a council comments before we leave?
We don't usually on, operating, but you.
But this is important.
Okay.
Have we made a decision about the Thanksgiving celebration?
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, you know, the church thing and all that?
Yeah, I assume that we will still want to do it like we have been there.
You and I? All right, sounds good to me. So we can tell everybody we're ready.
And any help that, anybody that wants to help, with this, we are certainly welcome. Anybody in the audience that wants to help us, do the Thanksgiving meal, let us know.
I'm sorry. That's all I need.
Got a motion by Mr. Simmons to adjourn, is your second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Brackman, any discussion? Favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank y'all.